Yes, the good old gaming days. You're playing Pokemon Emerald on your Game Boy without a single worry in the world. You and your siblings are taking turns with the console, hoping someone fails and finally has to give up their turn. You and your friends probably just had an intense game session of Smash Bros. Melee without using Star Fox, and maybe you're even playing past your bedtime with your handheld in bed and quickly pretend to fall asleep as your parents come into your room and almost catch you playing the game past your bedtime. Let's be honest, this has happened to all of us. And I mean, maybe the previous day you were playing Call of Duty Zombies and got past round 30 on Kino der Toten. It was a much simpler time, which brings me to modern gaming today. Modern gaming is just an endless loophole of recycled games filled with microtransactions that we just seem to keep buying. You want to play casually without going against the constant TTV sweats who have Dorito crumbs scattered across their keyboard and probably haven't changed their clothes in 2 weeks? Too bad. And it's crazy because the current state of gaming is just at an all-time low and companies are just running out of ideas. Well, since they love Modern Warfare so much, let's release it again and again and again.
Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, Advanced Warfare. What's the difference between these three games?
Nothing.
Nothing at all, because people want the same game with a new name. That's why they keep buying it. Look at the sales spikes. Spike here, spike here.
Why is there a remaster of a remaster within a few years apart? Why do I have to buy a game full price if I already own a copy of the original just for an extra 30 frames per second? Today, I'll be talking about what is going on with modern gaming, which leads me to my next point: unfinished games. A lot of companies and studios today just seem to think that releasing unfinished games is the way to go because they can always just release the finished parts of a game in a patch whenever they choose to. These AAA studios especially will focus on the paid aspects of their virtual currency before even patching parts of the game. An insane exploit going on multiplayer? No big deal. Give us like 5 days. An exploit to get free bundles or currency? I mean, bro, it's probably going to be patched in like the next 5 minutes. They're losing money. They're just going to go insane because it's all they care about, right? Cyberpunk was delayed for so long. I mean, it lasted forever. They released the game and then it's instantly broken.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Next thing you know, a few whole years later, the game is finally finished, but was released unfinished and now nobody really cares about it. These studios do not care about you and they'll just tell you a bunch of false hope for the game, claiming they will add this and then add this into the game to improve it. And next thing you know, you end up with Starfield or even the Star Wars Battlefront recent remakes that just came out. And just an absolute mess and a huge disappointment to the mass gaming industry and all the core fans who were so hyped for the releases of these games. And Overwatch 2 is notorious for this. Remember that PvE game mode that was set to release on launch? Yeah. Or how about the fact that they had to take out Bastion from the game right on release because he was glitched? And I mean, he was out of the game for like around a week, I believe. It's like, do these people even test their games? Not only that, but the game was just very underwhelming. It looks great. It almost feels like you're playing Overwatch 2, but something is missing. You can't quite put your finger on it. Oh yeah, it just looks like Overwatch 1 with some reskins and a few changed abilities and animations without loot boxes in the game. Another example is just Halo Infinite, a game that finally years later is in a good state and a lot of the player base has already quit. And as I said before, games now can release the finished parts of a game through patches whenever they want, but in Halo's case, it was far too late. Many of the casuals already quit and don't even know about the updates that have happened, and just as a whole completely lost interest, myself included. And as a Halo fan, I just feel really sad because what was once a great and promising series in the hands of 343 is just a roller coaster of emotions now. Call of Duty is also a victim to this. Most of the player base quits a few months into the game, and then it's flooded with hackers because they would rather release new bundles every day over fixing the gameplay experience. All they do is focus on one aspect of the game in the battle royale, but don't even look towards the multiplayer side. Make a game that's 70% finished and then prioritize the paid aspects of the game from the microtransactions and release the finished parts of the games later in an update, as I've been saying.
So, they want DLC! That's what they want. They want DLC. They want a half complete game. Even though we have the full one, they want a half game for $60, right? Yeah. And they want to buy the rest. That's what they want.
It sounds smart because why put in more effort when people will buy the game anyway? I mean, who's going to compete with some of these top tier games that are out right now? Their budget's too high. No one can even compete. You're going to buy it anyway. What they fail to realize is that it completely kills a franchise and its core fans before it actually becomes finished. And by the time it does, nobody's playing anymore. Microtransactions. I think you and me, I mean, we all know this. Microtransactions aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And it's no surprise that microtransactions have just been flooding the market. It's one of the main reasons nowadays the games just are not even close to what they used to be, although there are some exceptions. And sure, it's always been about the money. I totally understand that. You want to sell your game and get the money back with all the resources and money that you also put into it. But now, you can't even load up a game without a million in-game ads promoting you to get their brand new battle pass. I mean, bro, go load up Destiny 2 right now on a new account and I guarantee you will have like 30 plus pop-ups just recommending you to buy something in that game.
Can you stop? Can you stop now? Can you stop? Can I
The
play the video
pop-ups.
game? Like, can you stop?
Moments of trap.
Are you done? Oh my god!
Clash Royale and Rocket League even have a battle pass now. And the greatest strategy in microtransactions is making you buy a minimal amount, mostly making you pay more money than what you'd like, while giving you extra currency you didn't even need. Let's just say that you're 700 currency off of a cool skin that you won on Rocket League, but it costs $5 for 500 currency. You're 200 currency short. The cheapest bundle you can buy is $5. And there's no $1 packs or even $2 packs, so you're gonna have to spend $5 more and get like 500 extra currency than what you even needed to get what you wanted in the first place. But if you pay for the $10 bundle, instead of two $5 bundles, you get an extra 100 currency added to it as well.
Life like this sure is sweet, huh? It definitely is.
This is the problem with in-game currency and just how corrupted it is. And these games will even hide things behind paywalls like Overwatch 2. You either spend your entire life getting enough in-game currency for a character you like or pay for it right away. Imagine not being able to afford a character that everyone's using, is clearly the meta and has an advantage, but they'll get it right away and you spend weeks upon weeks grinding just trying to get it for free. Someone actually did the calculations of how long it would take to unlock everything in Overwatch 2 for free, and it would take over 3 lifetimes. I'm gonna have to call Bulma and get the Dragon Balls at that point. And Destiny 1 was a great game. You could do whatever you wanted when you wanted. There was no battle passes. You had all the time in the world to grind the game. But now Destiny 2 is just completely ruined from the paid aspects of the game so much that it costs around $300 or maybe even more now just to be even caught up in the game. And that's not counting the battle passes that you're probably gonna want to buy or the cosmetics you want. You don't want to be a default skin out there. You gotta be dripped out. Meanwhile, all the fans are begging for more updates in the game and a change of the same expansion formula releases that they keep doing within Destiny. And sure, for gacha games, it totally makes sense. You play Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail, maybe even Dokkan Battle to collect characters with free currency until you have to pay for more currency in that game. Hint, why it's called a gacha. But for games where they bait you by calling it free and then locking all the content behind paywalls like Destiny, forcing you to either get railed by players who are a higher level than you because they bought the expansions, is insane. And as I said before, microtransactions are not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. I actually think it's going to get far worse in the future, but it does have its pros and cons. But I would say that it mostly has a lot of negative aspects to it, and it's just not going to be going anywhere anytime soon, unfortunately. And for those of you that still refuse to even buy stuff inside of a game, salute to you. Nostalgia. Everybody remembers the good old days of booting up your Game Boy, playing some Pokemon Emerald or Mario Kart on the Wii, and you probably have different games yourself that you would list. These games made a huge impact on our life, and for some of us, no matter if a game is factually better nowadays, our nostalgia will not convince us that it's a better game than our childhood game. You were just having the time of the life back then, no worries in the world, just school, and then games. Playing COD Zombies with the boys, grinding for max prestige while just being in the middle of the best gaming era ever with the best multiplayers ever. Minecraft was just released on consoles. You just got past the tutorial world. You're embracing the amazing music in the game and the environment. It was just all so much fun. Building worlds with your friends, slaying the Ender Dragon. You were just having the time of your life. And nostalgia, in a sense, can lead people to not remembering how good or how bad a game actually was. Sonic 06, Dragon Ball Sagas. That's right, I'm definitely talking about you. But it's not the case for all games. I mean, some of them really were and still are better than many games today. I mean, just take a look at Borderlands 3. I challenge anybody to prove to me that Borderlands 3 is a better game than Borderlands 1 or 2. A game nowhere near close to its previous titles. And we all cherish specific games depending on what was going on in our life at the time. You may have more memories on a game than someone else and that's why you love it more. But nostalgia is not the sole reason that gaming doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel like developers are putting the same amount of love and care into their games like they once did. And sure, I know it's not all their fault because they're just doing what the higher ups are telling them to do, but it's just clear that it's not the same. Look at a game like Halo 2 and look at the resources that they had to make that game, and then compare it to some of the modern games today. You can clearly see the love and care into one game compared to the other. And it's sad because many people use gaming to get away from the real world and have an immersive experience and actually feel like they're in the world, although temporary, but while they're playing feel like they're actually in that world. And it's crazy to think about this, but people once used to line outside of GameStops at midnight at the hype of a game, causing fights in lines at times just to get one single game like everyone else. And there still are masterpiece games today. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are perfect examples of showing how masterpiece games can still be made. Some fans even argue that it's better than Ocarina of Time, one of the highest rated games in all of gaming history. And many companies are stuck in the past with nostalgia too. It's not just us, constantly re-releasing old game content like Destiny with their raids or Call of Duty with maps we have. I mean, how many Nuketowns do we even have at this point? It's getting ridiculous. No competition. Some games have no competition, which lets them release their game in whatever condition they want. Look at Madden. It's literally the same game every year almost, with new modes occasionally, but a game with constant bugs where the pros are even complaining 24/7 about it. The same applies to 2K. Their only competition was NBA Live, which ultimately quit making basketball games, and so now 2K can release their games with no effort put into it whatsoever because people will buy it and there's no other basketball game worth buying that's on the level of theirs. I remember a time when Fortnite once released a free battle pass right after Apex Legends came out because of the insane amount of hype that it was getting. Things like this is what makes game competition good. It actually forces these companies to implement mechanics in the game that are good, forcing them to cater and actually listen to their player base for once. It's just like for how many FPS games had to step up and try to challenge Halo and Call of Duty to get people to buy their games. And competition all in all is good for gaming and only provides benefits for everyone. The same way Xbox and PlayStation are constantly butting heads and making big moves. Microsoft even recently purchased Blizzard, giving them access to a number of titles. PlayStation recently added Discord after Xbox already had it, so that the players wouldn't keep complaining about it. Xbox has backwards compatible games. It's a good feature and it's a good reason to buy the console, while as PlayStation has amazing console exclusive games, forcing players which console to pick. And honestly, I feel like nobody can really get mad at game competition. It only helps gaming as a whole. Expanding your game taste. I know this isn't going to satisfy a whole lot of people, but games today are still really good and mostly better than many of the games in the past, but you have to expand your game catalog and genres. I can't stress this enough. JRPGs were something that I absolutely hated in the past, but after I played Final Fantasy X a few years back, it completely changed my life and how I look at gaming as a whole, and now JRPGs are my favorite game genre. Just because you play the same COD, 2K, Fortnite, Valorant, recycled games every year does not mean that modern gaming as a whole sucks, and yes, to a degree it has many flaws, and yes, gaming for most people did feel way more enjoyable back then, but there are still games out there that can recapture that feeling for you, such as Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Those are two games that did it for me, or even the Trail series, which is my favorite game series of all time. I just played this only a few years ago, not even 3 years ago. Just get off your FPS games and maybe try out a strategy game like Fire Emblem, or an amazing, brilliant open world game like The Witcher 3. Only you have control over your outlook on gaming. And for those of you that have tried to explore and still feel the same as you did before, that's totally acceptable. New games aren't going to satisfy every single person. At the very least, just give it a chance. I promise, gaming still has many hidden gems. You just have to go out there and actually find it.